Hi there. Today we will travel back in time over 100 years ago to discuss something remarkable. In the quiet countryside of Oxfordshire, near the old market town of Wantage, lie the faint traces of a once bustling airfield, RAF Camp Wantage. Today, only scattered remnants remain, concrete foundations half swallowed by grass and the ghostly outlines of long-forgotten runways. However, a century ago, this was a place alive with purpose, filled with the sounds of engines, the smell of oil and canvas, and the restless energy of a nation at war. When World War I broke out in 1914, the British Army and its newly formed Royal Flying Corps had an urgent need for training grounds for airmen, engineers, mechanics, and drivers. Wantage, positioned between Reading and Swindon, with open land and access to rail transport, was chosen as one such site. By 1916, Camp Wantage had come to life. Wooden huts were erected in neat rows, workshops were built, and a parade ground was set up. It was not a frontline base, but rather a vital support and training facility where men learned the skills and discipline that kept the air war going. The camp housed sections of the Army Service Corps and Royal Flying Corps, which were in charge of maintaining the vehicles, equipment, and aerodrome stores that supported Britain's growing air force. Young mechanics were taught here to service fragile biplanes such as Sopwith Camels, Avro 504s, and BE-2s, which flew from nearby fields in Oxfordshire and Berkshire. Wantage's role might have been quiet compared to the roar of the Western Front, but it was no less important. Instructors trained ground crews, drivers transported supplies, and engineers devised new methods of repair and maintenance to improve the efficiency of Britain's aviation operations. For many of the men stationed here, Wantage was their first taste of military life. Letters from the era describe long days, muddy drills, and evenings spent in the canteen, playing cards or writing home by candlelight. The town of Wantage became intertwined with the camp. Local families housed billeted soldiers, shops and pubs thrived, and military bands frequently echoed through the village streets. By the end of the war in 1918, thousands of servicemen had passed through the gates of Camp Wantage, trained, disciplined, and ready to serve the nation's growing air arm. Following the armistice, the once urgent war machinery began to slow down. Many temporary camps were dismantled, but Wantage remained operational in a reduced capacity. It was repurposed as a Royal Air Force training and logistics facility, commemorating the RAF's inception in 1918. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, the location saw new uses. Some areas became surplus equipment storage depots, while others were converted into technical training facilities. The camp's existence maintained a stream of military activity in the town, even as much of the war-related structures deteriorated. But beneath the surface, Britain was preparing again. By the late 1930s, as tensions in Europe mounted, the old camp's facilities were re-evaluated for modern defense needs. RAF Wantage served as an auxiliary site for transport and maintenance, supporting newer, larger stations nearby. Many of these early camps had outlived their technological capabilities by the end of World War II. The RAF began to consolidate its resources, and Wantage's military role gradually diminished. By the 1950s, much of the site had been returned to civilian use, with buildings being dismantled or repurposed. Yet traces of that era remain, foundations beneath the soil, archival photographs of airmen standing proudly beside their machines, and local stories passed down through generations. In the decades that followed, the land that once trained mechanics and drivers became an integral part of Wantage life. Modern housing and industry replaced barracks and parade squares. And, while the roar of engines has faded, the memories of those who served there continue to resonate. For them, RAF Camp Wantage was more than just a posting. It was a chapter in the great story of Britain's rise to prominence as an air power, as well as a symbol of the quiet, steadfast work done behind the lines of battle. When we talk about World War I, we often think of trenches, mud, and sacrifice on foreign soil. However, history exists in places like Wantage, in the workshops and training fields where ordinary men learned extraordinary skills and laid the groundwork for modern aviation. The story of RAF Camp Wantage reminds us that victory is earned not only in battle, but also through diligent preparation, discipline, and ingenuity. So, as you stand on the gentle slopes of Oxfordshire and feel the wind blow across the fields, you might pause to imagine the hum of engines, the shouts of instructors, and the distant beat of marching boots, echoes of a time when this peaceful land helped shape the skies above. This was the story of RAF Camp Wantage, a forgotten airfield, a vital cog in the great machine of war, and a testament to the enduring spirit of those who served.